Well, we have a much improved weather day today. It's going to dry up, it's going to be sunny, it's going to be in the 60s. I can deal with it, and oh boy, yeah, it's really daylight out. Yeah, Johnny and I, we were just thinking through the switch over to daylight savings time, which happens here overnight, Saturday night, technically at 3 a.m. Sunday morning, where we move the clocks forward an hour. So 5 a.m. becomes 6 a.m., which means 4 a.m. is now 5 a.m. So Monday is a really rough wake up for us. When I get up at 5:30, it'll feel to my body like it's 4:30. Dawn always points out the number of increased accidents and heart attacks that happen on that Monday morning. It's very stressful to people. I personally would vote to get rid of daylight savings time if it were put to a vote, or if it were up to me. What it will do though is make it a little darker again in the morning until the days get longer, and I will get to enjoy sunrise a little bit more. It won't be over with before I get in the car. So there is that. There is that enjoyment. So yeah, my gas light's gonna come on this morning. Dawn promises I have 30 miles after it comes on. So I'm gonna have a little range anxiety today, and I'm gonna get Johnny dropped off in downtown, and then I'm gonna try to make it back to a Sheetz in the Garner area and put gas in the car. But I'm not gonna be able to avoid putting gas in this morning. There's just no choice. I'm gonna have to stop and get gas. I cannot stand this. I want my electric car back. I want a full tank every morning when I leave the house. I don't want to be looking at gauges during the day trying to figure out where I'm going to stop. More importantly, how I'm going to find the time to stop during my route. Yuck, yuck, and double yuck. Yeah, that came on just a little sooner than I was thinking that it was going to. We're only halfway to the school, basically. So I'm just noting that I'm at 408 miles. Range anxiety in the gas car, it's a thing. We're entering downtown at 7:18 a.m. so we should be able to get across town in time for Johnny to not be late. And we haven't run out of gas yet, so that's a good thing. It looks like a clearing sky up there behind the tall buildings this morning. I got Johnny dropped off at 7:25 a.m. so he's on time. Not as early as he'd like, but he is on time. I've gone a little over 10 miles since the gas light came on. I am not enjoying my morning drive at all. I'm gonna take the alternate route out of town. I get my street names confused, but I think that's not Wilmington over to Hammond, but South Saunders Street. There's a lot more gas stations over there. I'm not going to be able to make it back to the nice Sheetz that I would like to, which is like halfway home. So I'm just going to go shoot for one of those gas stations over on South Saunders Street and fill up. I should be able to make it over there with no problem. Let's keep our fingers crossed. The Model 3 parked on the street. You know, we always wonder about charging when there may not be home charging. Of course, that's fairly close to the Raleigh Supercharger, and if they only drive a few miles a day, they go over to the Supercharger once a week. That probably works too. Traffic getting out of town was horrible, and I accidentally ended up coming back out of town on Wilmington Street instead of South Saunders Street. And, you know, I've traveled several miles from the school, and there are no gas stations over here. So I know everybody says there's a gas station like on every corner, but that's really not true. And I'm just breathing, stay calm, stop at the first one I see that looks safe and like they have gas. Maybe this is a BP up here. Yeah, $2.19 at this BP. That's a little bit more expensive than it is in Fuquay, but at this point I don't care. There's a Model X blue going through the stoplight over there. So I put $40.66 in the van this morning in gas. and that was for 346.3 miles. So that comes out to 11.74 cents a mile. We can sort of round that up to 12. I actually got about 25 more miles on this tank of gas than I did on the last tank of gas. I have no clue why. So if you do the math on that, say 320 miles and 40.66 cents, that comes out to be closer to 12.5 cents a mile. All right. So if Ruby had gone the equivalent number of miles at 360 watt hours per mile, which is about what she gets, which is what her average watt hours per mile lifetime, okay, that would have been $9.97 in electricity, or 2.827 cents per mile. So we'll round that up to 3 cents a mile. So we're talking about the Tesla costs us 3 cents a mile, and the van costs us 12 cents a mile. Okay, so that's a fourth the amount of money. All right, the van doesn't get 25 miles per gallon, which is the typical number used, you know, when folks are doing calculations of gas vehicle costs. Of course, there's some gas vehicles that are getting in the 40 to 50 mile a gallon range, because they're like the Chevy Volt with the small battery pack in it. And then there's others that are only getting 10 or something. You know, the GMC, I think, is not getting quite as good as the van. So, but you can see that basically what I'm saying is every time I put $40 worth of gas in the van, that's costing me an extra $30 over what it would have cost me to drive Ruby the equivalent amount of miles. And what that really means is I'm having to fill up the van twice a week. So that's costing me $60 extra a week to fill up the van. Now, the only, you know, we could add in maintenance costs there. The van has had a good bit of maintenance and should be stable for a while. Ruby hasn't cost us a lot of maintenance. I'm just going to say that's maybe a wash. If we want to talk about tires, we've got a little bit of extra tire cost, I'm sure, on Ruby over what the van tires cost. Although they weren't cheap the last time we had to put Michelin's on the van either. So that is strictly a comparison on gasoline cost. It's not a comparison on actual cost per mile, which is something when you're considering what vehicle to drive. Unless, you know, you're a millionaire and you want to know how much your actual cost is going to be, then you should take maintenance and tires into consideration too. But from a gasoline pure perspective, you can see while I'm grumbling every time I have to put gas in the van, because, you know, it's starting to eat into my go to Guardian Angel and shop with Michelle money. Just kidding. But, you know, it is definitely an additional cost for us. And I'll just make one more point. A Model 3 long range would save you even more, right? Because Ruby's watt hour per mile, we used 360 as her lifetime average. But a Model 3 would be somewhere 250, 280, depending on which Model 3. Long range probably getting you the best watt hours per mile, not performance. So it could be even an additional savings. Since I'm on a roll with comments about filling up with gas versus filling up with electric, I want you to know back there that I made sure all the doors of the van were locked except for the driver's door, which was up next to the pump, because like Ruby, the gas is on the left side. And I kept my keys and my phone in my hand just in case. And I was aware of my surrounding for the 7-ish minutes. I didn't really time it, but I'm just guessing that it took me to fill up the van, that I stood out there and watched. Now, you know, they say don't re-enter your vehicle while you're pumping gas. I'm sure in nasty weather we've all gotten back inside before. I did stand out there this morning. I I know folks have mentioned security at the superchargers. I've never personally felt unsafe at a supercharger that I was at, but I also wasn't alone in the middle of the night. I certainly didn't have too much pause at the Sheets we were at when we were there later at night, because it was near midnight a few times when we've been at the Sheets. About the only thing I would change about you know, the supercharger, you get out, you plug in, you get back in. You don't need to stand out there and babysit it. You can lock the car while you're inside. I guess technically at a gas pump, you could pull away while you could start the car and pull away while you were pumping. Nothing would prevent you from doing that. Of course, we all know with gas fumes and the volatility of catching gas fumes or gas catching on fire with the spark, that's not a good idea. The only thing I would change about supercharging would be that there was an emergency release so that you could release the charger and take off if you felt threatened. That would be the only thing I would change. Although, if I'm in my car and the car is locked, short of somebody coming at the windows with a baseball bat, it's probably pretty safe. Most folks on the outside would you know, threaten, but that's probably not a real concern. But I do think about that from time to time. But just comparing the safety, I did a lot of talking this morning and the battery died on me. All I was trying to say is that there are some safety issues with pumping gas or supercharging potentially. They're not night and day different. They're pretty similar. So, you know, just always be aware of your surroundings. And in either case, if you ever don't feel comfortable, call the police and ask them to come and do a safety check. That's all I would do if I felt like I was in a remote spot and just not feeling comfortable. Or people near me at the supercharger making me uncomfortable. Same thing for the gas station. It's really, they both leave you a little bit exposed. Dawn asked me to run into the Fuquay Walmart and look for zinc tablets, and well, there weren't any. There was one box of Zycam, but none of the generic left. The shelf was basically empty, and the lady responsible for over-the-counter pharmaceutical supplies, she said anything I would be looking for that had to do with being sick with a cold or the coronavirus, they probably don't have. All the alcohol hand sanitizer is gone. She says she has no clue when she's getting anything else back in. And she was a little frustrated, I think, that she had been wiped out and so many people were coming in asking for supplies. So I plugged along a good part of the morning on the day 1000 video. It's I'm through everything I want to include from 2017.
Also, you have 18 and 19 to go, and then most of 20.
And part of 20. Yeah, I don't know. For right now, we'll just say I'm through 17.
Good girl.
It's been a great trip down memory lane. I've really enjoyed it. Too cloudy out there today to be trying to look at the hawk or the pileated woodpecker. I decided to take a break.
Right.
I don't think the pileated woodpecker is doing any additional activity on that tree, which is not to say that we won't see them in the yard, hear them calling and that kind of thing, but I questioned a female building the nest and that close to the driveway, so it's probably just as well. And that close to the hawk nest. It was really close to the hawk nest too, so I would love to watch them more. Maybe I'll figure out where they've moved to. I'm not give up on that. And Dawn plugged Ruby in last night to charge her because we haven't charged her for approximately a week.
Yeah.
And you reported what?
She did not charge. She's got 163 miles of range, so we have plenty of range to get it to the service center tomorrow. So she's lost approximately 80 miles sitting there for a week. Right.
Because we can't turn range mode off. We can't turn we can't turn sentry mode off. We can't turn summon ready. We can't mess with any of those things you would mess with. And you know, since I drive her every day, I fully utilize that battery. I don't worry about turning stuff off. We charge every day. Right. So and I'm not saying that's bad or that's good. I'm just saying she lost 80 miles and we still have plenty to get her up to the service center.
I think we can get her to charge.
If we need to.
If we need to, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, all I did is just plug her in and leave it last night and expect the scheduled charging to take over. But I think if we if I plugged her in and told her to charge, I think through the app or through Tesla Fiber.
Start charging on the phone. Yeah, that might have worked. Might work. We could. That would be our next thing to try if we really needed to. Don's decided he just wants to fool with her tomorrow morning. If he has trouble and it just takes him longer, so be it. We're not going to take her up there this afternoon like we had contemplated.
Right, I'm going to pull her. I'm going to make sure I'm going to go out today and make sure she goes into drive, and you know that she looks like she's ready to go. So that tomorrow morning I should just be able to drive her up there. But so in case if there is anything wrong, then I'll still have a little time to deal with it today.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to try to drive her up there today.
Right. And Don said he's back thinking about spending some time outside. It's not windy, the temperature's nice, and it's not raining.
Well, Monday when I originally was going to do that, it was quite windy. And
yeah, there were 40-mile-per-hour gusts. It's not safe to be out there in the woods when stuff can fall on your head like that.
Especially when my head has an affinity for getting nicks and dings on it.
Well, I'm headed to get Johnny.
Yeah.
I got one errand on the way home, and then I'll be back.
Right. Okay.
So, thanks for letting me grab some things from the trip, Mom.
Yeah, we just came out of Walmart in Garner. They didn't have any of the generic zinc in there either, so we went ahead and bought 2 boxes of the Zycam. Hate to spend the extra $6, but that is what it was. And Johnny brought up a very good point. Hey, Mom, can we get some shampoo and stuff for my trip? So I said, sure. And, yeah, we saw a few people in there that either had on a mask or had like a turtleneck kind of thing on and had pulled the collar up over their nose. Yeah, so you know, people are worried. I mean, I'm not worried. I'm not overly worried. I'm sort of just poor Johnny took a sip of water the wrong way. Sorry, bud.
It's fine. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Good. That's good. Anyway, we saw people with for the first time here in Wake County in a number that it was very noticeable that had on some sort of mask. I told Johnny, I think the most important thing is to just not touch your face. Don't scratch your nose. Don't try to get goop out of the corner of your eye. Don't, rub your nose back and forth. Don't try to get something out from your teeth. Don't mess with your face. Just don't touch your face.
On top of that, you should probably be careful with your water bottles too, that you don't touch the rim of where you're drinking.
Right. They have those alcohol wipes, that you can wipe down the handle of the cart, but I'm not even sure that that's a strong enough alcohol on those wipes to do anything more than give you a false sense of security. So best just not to touch your face. There were a lot of people in the pharmacy looking for high alcohol content hand sanitizer and the Zycam stuff. There were. Tux was sound asleep on the bench. Johnny went over to spend some time with him. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy!
Yeah. I'm glad I only had to do this once a year.
So Don's got out the strap.
Yeah, I pulled up a pretty big piece of privet. And I'm just going around pulling up the little ones. And the soil is nice and moist. It's not dry. So most of them are coming up. I've only had trouble with 2 besides pulling that one up.
There's one right at your foot.
Yeah.
There's a lot this year. Yeah, see, it came up roots and all.
Yeah, roots and all. And
well, like I said, up the hill where I've been feeding the Stripe, the feral cat. Yeah. Every time I walk up and back, I've been either pulling a briar or pulling privet.
Yeah, well, even if they kind of do break off sometimes, like this broke off, and obviously that could sprout. But what happens is, at least if you pull it up by this much of the roots, the part of the root that's down isn't so thick. If you just cut it off year after year, the roots get thicker and thicker.
Right.
And it's bigger and bigger, and you can't pull it out.
Right, don't ever cut it off at the ground. You got to pull out as much root as you can and then just go from there. Yeah.
Right, at least that's my experience of having done this for about 15 years.
Yeah. It's a really bad problem here in Wake County, the whole invasive privet stuff.
Yeah, well, it makes berries.
Yeah, and the birds eat it, and then they spread it.
Right, and it takes really well. In other words, every berry that hits the ground turns into a new tree.
Yep.
And
Unfortunately.
they can get big. They can get huge.
Oh yeah, well in New Jersey my dad had intentionally planted it as a fence around our acre property, and it was 10 feet when we moved down to North Carolina, so it's big.
Yeah, I've seen them 4-6 inches in caliper of the tree.
Well, thank you for pulling it for us. We don't want our yard overtook by privet.
Yeah, well it gets me my exercise today, and gets me using different muscles, which is always good.
Than just running. Yeah.
Got to kind of warm up a little bit, you know. Shower down on some of these babies. With a bad back, it might not be a good idea, but you know, lift with the old knees stuff.
So lucky for Don, not once in his life has he had poison oak or poison ivy.
Yeah.
I don't get out here because the poison oak and the poison ivy love me, and it really doesn't matter if it's emerged for the spring yet or not.
Yeah, no,
I have to be super careful. The last thing Don would want is to put up with me for 10 days while I'm trying to get over a rash.
Yeah, I've been out here enough over the years, and I've never had a case of poison.
And we do have poison oak. Usually when I see it, just like with the privet, I tell Don and he gets rid of it for me.
Yeah.
He tries to keep me safe. Yeah, so anything over like a 2-foot sapling or something, anything that's a little bigger, Don uses this on it.
Yeah, it's called a brush scrubber. It's a fiberglass, 6-foot fiberglass or 5-foot fiberglass pole, and it has like
you grip it.
Yep. Chinese handcuff concept. The harder you pull, the more it digs. As long as it's about 1 inch. This is the big one. I have a smaller one that's hand operated. I couldn't find it today. The only problem I ever had with it is you put so much weight in it, this metal bar would bury down into the mud. So I put a piece of plywood there, so that it spreads the weight out, so you can get on this thing and bounce on it quite heavily. But yes,
and I've seen him do that.
Yeah, it's reasonably effective.
Yeah.
Certainly saves your back. Hey there.
So did you get done what you wanted to get done for tonight?
Yeah, I did. I made a good, I would say over there, I pretty much, on that side of the yard, took care of it. I'm going to have to go tomorrow, and all the stuff I pulled up, I'm going to gather it all up, and I'm going to take it over to the other sides and put it in the deep woods over here on the other side. Otherwise, I'd have to chip it or something. They've got to be more, I pulled up more than I've expected.
Yeah, it was a lot of new growth over there, and new plants, not like not growing back from where it was. Like really, the birds had dropped that much more. Yeah, I got honeysuckle off of my 2 beauty berries. Donnie helped me out get them unstuck a little bit. After they leaf out and berry up, I'll prune them a little bit, maybe not a lot, but if anything's dead on them or whatever. And
yeah, well, I'll work my way across towards the mailbox on that side of the yard. I usually don't do stuff on the other side of the driveway too much, but you know, it just depends on how much energy.
Well, I haven't seen a lot of privet over there either.
Right.
Yeah. That's probably partly why. Just down right at the creek crossing.
And I keep the creek cleaned out pretty well also.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing that for us.
You're welcome, pretty girl.